السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So last week we did the beginning of Kitab al-Janazah, the first part of the book of funerals, the Muslim burial. And we did everything from the deathbed up until what to do immediately after someone dies. In the next section, somebody got the book. It's open. You locked it. You left it open? No, it's locked. It's locked? Yeah. Give him the book now. Like the next section is the washing of the body. The washing of the body. And in this section, it's important to notice how we deal with each other even after we die. Even after we die, the gentleness and the respect that we're supposed to have for the deceased. And a lot of people don't know. So how many people watched the body? Everybody was here last week, right? You watched the body? You watched the body? How many know? If you've been there to watch a body, it's possible you've seen people who don't know what they're doing. Meaning not the washers, the people who come to help wash. They might not know what to do. They just stand there and they just did. No, it's just the wrong book, man. Humbly ask the worship. The thicker one. So this is important because no matter how we see ourselves as individuals, a lot of times there's another person watching and they consider you to be a better Muslim than them. So they'll call you and say, listen, I need you to come take care of the Janazah. This is the book, and this is on page 63. Starts on page 63. So it's important to notice how much attention is given to the deceased and how much respect is given to the person that's dead, to the Muslim that's dead, and how much honor is given to the Muslim. طيب. قال رحمه الله فصل وإذا أخذ في غسله ستر عورته والسنة ستره كله عن العيون. It's possibly, number one, that the odor of the person that's dead has to be covered. Right? The odor of the man and the odor of the woman. But the question is, what is the odor? What is the odor? Again? طيب. The private parts. Everybody clear? The odor has to be covered. The odor is a little more detailed than the private parts, right? If we say private parts, y'all, what do we mean by private parts? The front and the back, the private area itself. But the odor for the man is from where? From the navel to the knees. So we can get in that. The odor for the woman is what? The whole body, except for the few exceptions that can be seen. Which means, if we just say private part, the woman's arm is supposed to be covered, sisters. Sisters, your neck is supposed to be covered. The khimar is not supposed to be like a style type of, you know what I'm saying? It changes with the wind. The new trend that comes out, we don't have to switch out the way we cover because it's a certain way that the Muslim woman is supposed to cover, right? Which means that the odor of the woman is always covered. It's not connected to, and this is another issue, the odor of covering a woman is not connected to what kind of clothes she wears, meaning she doesn't have to have this exact garment to be covered correctly, right? This garment that we know here, the abaya, or whatever the name is, the tarha, the khimar, the garments that are famous here are not famous in other parts of the world. They use different garments and they're still covered properly. It doesn't mean that everybody has to dress exactly the same, but there are certain things that have to be covered by everybody. Same thing for the men. We dress a certain way here, but that doesn't mean the whole world dresses the way we dress in Philly, or even in the East Coast, right, of America. So as long as the odor has to be covered, it says here the nakedness. But to be more specific, the odor is the same thing that was discussed in the chapter of the Salat, that the odor has to be covered. So number one, it's obligatory for the person that's deceased that we're going to wash, that their odor has to be covered as if they were alive. And some of the scholars say the whole body becomes an odor when they die. So, he says, and it's recommended to cover the body, for the body to be not covered, but away from anybody seeing the body. Meaning, it's possible, and this is not far-fetched the way things are going now. It's possible. I don't know if y'all seen any other. I'm pretty sure you've seen it. It's possible somebody says, you know what? This is my family member or a close person. I want to wash them at my house. I want to perform the washing at my house, right? They say, well, where are you going to wash them at the house? There's no room. We could just do it in the backyard, or we can do it on the front lawn, right? I'm not saying it's right to do. I'm just saying if a person came with this, this is not something that is recommended to do. That the person, of course, the odor has to be covered itself. Anyway, it's obligatory. But also the whole body shouldn't be on display for people to be watching the people washing them. It's not a display. It's not something you put a dead body on display, and this is how we're going to wash the person in front of people riding by, looking and causing a scene, right? So it's recommended even for that reason that the whole body should be covered in the sense of in a room like what's normal here, that the person is in a funeral home, even in a funeral home, inside of the funeral home, in the room, not in the main hallway in the funeral home with the door open on a glass door so that everybody walks by can see the dead body being washed. He says sunnah is recommended because it could be a possibility that a person is not able to put the whole body behind closed doors based on the situation. But if we can, then we should not have the brother or the sister dead on the table. We're going to wash them and prepare them to be wrapped, and everybody walking by in that area can look at it. He says, وَكُرِهَ حُضُورُ غَيْرُ مُعِينٍ مُعِينُ مُعِينٍ. It's disliked for anybody who's not coming to wash. For anybody, brothers, sisters going to wash a sister. If you're not coming there to hands-on wash, brothers, if you're just going in there like brothers do, they just come in and just stand around. They don't know what to do, right? And they just stand there and watch. That is disliked. It's not something that's recommended to do, that you go in a room and you look at the person dead on the table and you just stare at them while our brothers are washing. You're not in there. You're not pouring water. You're not helping lift them over. You're not doing the actual cleaning. You're just there, not helping. That's what this basically is. Is this like for a person that's not helping to be present in the room during the washing? He said dislike, which means what? Huh? Means what? Makruh. Tayyib. But what is makruh? Dislike means that it's not what? If something is disliked, then it hasn't reached the level of being haram. It's not haram. Like, so if that means if people are in the room that are not helping, it's not sinful for them to be there. It's not like they're getting a sin for being here. You start tripping. Oh, you can't be in here. Anybody, we get people emotional. Anybody not helping got to get out now. It's not to that extent. But it's not recommended. It's disliked for people who are not helping wash the body to be in there. Does anybody know why? Huh? Possibly maybe they leave and they shouldn't. Everything that happens in that room stays in that room, as they say. Anything that happens in that room from what is seen from the deceased is supposed to stay in that room from the people that are washing. You want to say something? There you are. That happens anyway, though, regardless if you're helping or you're not helping, right? The helper, the people that are washing the body, they have to be there. So even if you're there and there's 3 of y'all, 4 of y'all washing the body, what y'all see, it doesn't come out of that room. You don't come out of it just because y'all come up and we sandbox and all of that doesn't take precedence here, Islamically. What the people see washing the sister or washing the brother, it stays there. Now, what about the people that come in there So now what that means is the people that are washing, they can't help but to see what's there, right? They're washing the person. You gotta flip, not flip, but you gotta lean the body over, wash the back, and pour water and lift the leg up. The person who's not there, they say it's not recommended that they're there. They fall under the same rule, but as they say, it's possible that the person, number one, there's no need for them to be there because they're not helping. Number two, they come in there and it's possible they see something from the deceased that is maybe the deceased doesn't want anybody else to see. And if the people watching them didn't have to see him, maybe the deceased wouldn't even want them to see it, but they have no control over that. So they say it's possible they go in there and they see something from the deceased body that the deceased doesn't want anybody to see. Like what? Tattoo. If we don't know, brothers, sisters. If we don't know, tattoos are haram in Islam. Muslims are not allowed to get tattoos, and it's from the major sins that the Prophet ﷺ, he cursed the person who got a tattoo and the tattooer, the one who gives the tattoo. We're not supposed to be getting tattoos, even though society made it normal. They got names for them, sleeves and all this. That's dumb. We're Muslim. We have, right, rules that we live by based on Sharia, Quran, and Sunnah. So if a person had a tattoo before they accepted Islam or before they knew that Muslims couldn't get tattoos, it's possible, right? People get, brother he might have the name of a woman tattooed on him, right? He might got his being mom tattooed, name, or the opposite, right? She got a baby father tattooed before she was Muslim, right? She don't want nobody to see it. She don't want nobody. She's covered up for the rest of her life. Nobody knows it's there until what? Allah understand. Same thing for a brother. If the person is not there helping, there's no need for the person to be in there because it's possible that becomes apparent, and now anything can happen after that. From doubts about the person to shaitan. How long ago did they get that? And there's no need for it because number one, you're not there helping anyway. So you have no need to be there. And this is one of the things, this is just an example of, it could be other things too, that a person may see that the deceased wouldn't like anybody to see. What you say? You say something else they might see? Anything like that. Not just a tattoo, but anything. Huh? Or a scar, right? It could be a scar from a surgery a person had. They don't want nobody to know about it. They kept it private their whole life. And now, because they don't have the ability to cover themselves, it's exposed. Now, even though it's exposed, it should only be exposed to the people that it definitely, out of necessity, it has to be exposed to. So if a person is not there helping, that's from the reasons that they shouldn't be in there. So yeah, he says after that, the body is covered, the body is put away, the people that are going to wash the body are there. He says, ثُمَّ نَوَى وَسَمَّى, that the washer makes the intention and says, Bismillah. Because what's getting ready to happen? He says, وَهُمَا كَفِي غُسْلِ حَيٍّ. It's the same as if, meaning, making the niyyah, the intention to make the ghusl, because it's going to be a ghusl performed on the body. Just like when we live in, if you want to make a ghusl for Yom al-Jum'ah or ghusl al-Janaba, you have to make the niyyah, the intention to make a ghusl, and you have to say, Bismillah, right? The same rule applies for the person that's dead, the deceased. But the deceased is not able to make the niyyah, right? The deceased is not able to say Bismillah. So the washer says it on behalf of the deceased. طيب. He says, وَهُمَا كَفِي غُسْلِ الْحَيِّ. And they take the ruling in this point that the niyyah takes the ruling as if a person were alive. So the niyyah is a what? For wudu, for the salat, or for ghusl. It's a shart. And some say it's wajib, a condition for the wudu or the ghusl to be correct. And the basmala is also obligatory to say Bismillah unless a person forgets or something like that. طيب. After that, this is assuming, y'all, that the body is on the table, right? On the washing table. He says, ثُمَّ يَرْفَعُ الرَّأْسَ غَيْرَ الْحَامِلِ إِلَى كُرْ جُلُوسِ. After that, in this point, the body is, or the head of the body is what? Is raised up towards the lap. right? The body, the head is raised up towards the lap in order to do what? So anything on the inside can come out, can be flushed out. Jade, flushed out. It's a good word. Except for the person that we don't do this to is the pregnant woman. The woman who dies with a baby in her stomach. You don't lift her head up and push on the stomach with a baby in the stomach, right? And they say, why? I'm questioning y'all. I'm not joking. Serious question. Is the baby living? Huh? It's not a trick question. Is the baby alive? No. But they say what? Don't press on the stomach so that, this is how they explain it. Don't press on the stomach so that you don't harm the baby. Don't press on the stomach of the pregnant woman as she died with a baby in her stomach. You still don't go and press on the stomach of the baby dead anyway. It ain't gonna harm. No. That the deceased is treated with the same respect and honor that the living is treated with. So yeah, this goes for, so the head is lifted up except for the pregnant woman. Of course, this doesn't apply for the one that's not pregnant, that the stomach is pressed gently, not for the pregnant woman, but the stomach is pressed gently to flush out anything that may be left inside of the deceased. It says, and at this point, at this point, a lot of water should be poured on the deceased. Why? Because it's possible that when we lifted them up and pressed on the stuff, it's possible that something did flush out. So this is a ghusl, we cleaning. This is a washing. So we gotta clean off the deceased. We don't just leave stuff on the body as if they don't feel it anyway. That type of attitude. That's never the attitude when dealing with the deceased. They don't feel it anyway. Never. طيب. It says ثم يلف على يده خرقة فينجيه بها. At this point, something should be placed on the hand because the body has to be washed. It's not like the ghusl janazah, washing the body. It's not just, for example, just pouring water on the body. No, you're going to touch. Somebody's going to touch it. We're going to lift the arm up and clean the body. The body's going where? Yeah. We're going to wrap him. Where's the body going now? In the grave. We're going to lift up each other's arms and clean each other and make sure that we are prepared to go stand before our Lord, to meet our Lord. So something should be placed on the hand, meaning it shouldn't be bare, skin on skin, right? Something should be placed on the hand, and then the body should be washed. It says, وَحَرُمَ مَسُّ عَوْرَةِ مَنْ لَهُ سَبْعٍ. He said, and it's not permissible to touch the aura. The washer's hand. Good question. The person who's washing the body should have something on their hands because they get ready to start touching the body. And at no point do you want to touch the body skin on skin and possibly touch the person's aura. طيب. He says, وَحَرُمَ مَسُّ عَوْرَةِ مَنْ لَهُ سَبْعٍ. Let me see how you translate that. He said it's not allowed to touch the aura of a person who has reached the age of 7 years old. So once a person reaches the age of 7 years old, it's not allowed to touch their aura. Yes. You see now. What'd you say? He was late. He was late. That's what he said. They might. Why? The aura for the man is from the navel to the knee. The aura for the woman is the whole body, except for the hands, the face. To some, the face is the aura, and this is the issue of niqab. But we're not getting into all that. Except for what's apparent. Let's say the aura is everything on a woman is aura except for the hands, the face. Let's leave it there. We're not gonna go on. Everything has to be covered. And some say that the whole body after death, the whole body becomes aura. So that everything should be covered and nobody should see it. Yeah.
Can the wife wash the husband's private parts?
We ain't get there yet. That's an issue, though.
I'm strong with my brother. His wife didn't wash him, but the son was washing the body. And I'm not trying to tell you.
Yeah.
But he washed the part, and I was confused because I was like, I've never seen it done.
That's an issue. We ain't get there yet. But the issue is, can the wife wash the husband when the husband dies, and vice versa? Can the husband wash the wife? Some say no. Why not? Shit. The marriage contract ended with death, they said. The marriage contract ended with death. And if they're no longer married, then they're no longer what? Able to. That's some to some. Inshallah. So they say that the one who had 7 years and above, it's not permissible to touch their odor. When they say they're older, they mean skin on skin, right? Which means the one who's under 7, then what? They say they don't have an odor. And that comes in the section of the salat. And it's a little deep. Doesn't have an odor doesn't mean it's permissible to look at their private parts. It doesn't mean that. That's not what that means, right? But again, the odor for a man, for example, is the thigh. The woman's odor is not just her private parts, the other parts that we don't consider private parts. A thigh, for example. Like most people don't, I'm not talking about Islamically. I'm talking about when you say a private part, we think of the private area itself. Vagina, penis, right? Breast. But Islamically, the thigh is from the odor of a man. That we can't, it's not allowed, brothers, because the thing is now, walking around with these small shorts on. It's not permissible. Like we're men, right? Muslims, as a Muslim, we have a certain areas that we have to cover. The thigh is from those areas. The same thing for the sisters. That because something becomes popular in our area and it becomes normal, it don't make it right for Muslims to practice it. So it doesn't mean that it's allowed to look at the private area of children 7 and under. That's not the understanding of it. The hukum comes in other areas that we won't go into right now, inshallah. But either way, the odor has to be covered, and touching the odor is not to be done with, as they say, a ha'il, with nothing in between the skin. Something should always be blocking the person's skin from touching that odor, that area. So after this, now he moves to the actual more details of washing. He says, ثم يدخل إصبعيه وعليها خرقة مبلولة في فمه فيمسح أسنانه. This is on page 64, if you have the book. There you go, page 64. At this point, the person has something on their hand, right? It should be moist, not dripping wet. And they're going to take their fingers and they're going to stick their fingers inside of the deceased mouth in order to do what? Clean the teeth, right? This is up close and personal. You stick your fingers in the deceased mouth and nothing is rough. Everything is soft and gentle, even though they're deceased. It's not like nothing here is the idea. They don't feel it anyway. We just get it out the way. And if you ever wash your body with people who know what they're doing, they're going to show you slow down. Don't do it like that. Be soft and gentle with the body. That the fingers are moist, not dripping wet, moist, that they go in and they clean the teeth, which takes the place of what? There you are, brushing the teeth, or more specifically in wudu. When we rinse our mouth out with the water for wudu, it takes the place of that. So they're going to wet their fingers, right? And also they're going to clean out the nostrils, just like we're doing wudu. So at this point, the deceased is not able to make wudu, right? So the washer, the ghasil, the person who's washing, they're going to make wudu for the person. So they stick their fingers in the mouth, clean. And the same thing for the nose. Same thing for the nose. طيب. ثم يوضئه. After that, they're going to continue. They already did what? They already leaned their head up, gently pressed on the stomach, right? They wrap their hand up to make sure that they can, when they're washing, because they're doing a general wash to clean the body off. They didn't touch the private area. They take the fingers, clean the mouth out, and clean out the nostrils, and then they make a full wudu for the person. They make a full wudu as if we make wudu for the salat. طيب, clear? He says, وَيَغْسِلُ رَأْسَهُ وَلِحْيَتَهُ بِرَغْوَةِ السِّدْرِ. Next, that the hair in the lihya, in the beard, is washed with, which is called raghwa as-sidr. And it's the suds of a tree. I think it's the lotus tree. The lotus tree. If you need to, Google the lotus tree and see the benefits of that. But not with the mixture, with the suds of it. The suds of it. Because the mixture has some things that if you put it in the hair, it's going to get caught in the hair. Right? You don't want nothing getting caught in the hair and pulling the hair out of the deceased and nothing like that. So the suds are used for the lihya and the hair, to be washed with the lihya and the hair. وَبَدْنُهُ بِثُفْلِهِ. And the rest of the body is washed with the residue from the sidr. It's called the sidr, which is a tree, the lotus tree, right? L-O-T-U-S, the lotus tree. The rest of the body is washed with the remains, so that the residue that's in there doesn't go in the actual hair because it's going to get stuck in the hair. You don't want nothing getting stuck on the hair. So the suds are used for the hair, and the rest of it can be wiped on the body because it'll rinse off. It says, ثُمَّ يُفِيضُ عَلَيْهِ الْمَاء, and then water is poured on the whole body. Now he mentions some things that are recommended while washing. Everybody with me? It's important to understand the difference between things that are recommended and things that are obligatory. Because a lot of times we get into arguments and people fall out about things that one person thought it was obligatory, right? And the other person saw it to be something recommended, right? And it's a lot of things that, there's a lot of issues like that. There's some people consider obligatory, some people don't consider obligatory. طيب. Or even from using words like, you shouldn't do that, or we can't do that, right? Those words are not clear when it comes to Islamic rulings, right? Can't, what does can't mean? You can't do that. Can't could be either what? Islamically, can't can be what ruling? Huh? It could be haram, it can be totally impermissible. We're not allowed to do that at all, and if you do it, it's a sin. Or we can't do that could be understood as makruh, disliked, right? People we use can't. And we use can't in the English sense and not in the Islamic sense. Islamically, we need to know what the words mean. Or we say you shouldn't do that. Shouldn't could be, depends on how it's worded in a sense. It could be the same thing. It could be, you could be talking about something that is totally not allowed, it's sinful, or you could be talking about something that is disliked. So it's important to know the terms, the meaning of the words. He says sunnah, it's recommended. What's recommended? Number one, he says bitathlith. It's recommended to do the ghusl on the deceased, right? 3 times. It's recommended to do it how many times? 3 times is recommended. Just like when we live in, it's recommended to do wudu how many times? 3. But it's obligatory 1 time. It's obligatory 1 time. It has to be washed. The deceased has to be washed fully. A full wash 1 time is obligatory. And if that was the case, let's just say after they washed 1 time, the water cut off, and they couldn't wash them 2 more times. Alhamdulillah, enough has been done to continue to wrap the body in the washing is done properly. Clear? Or if it was just a situation where the water was limited. We think about ourselves where we just turn on the faucet and let it run, but in other areas, water is limited. Like we used to have gas oil back in the day. They used to have to bring the truck out and they fill up the oil tank. Some people have water like that. They have to come out. We used to have in Mecca, they used to come out and they fill up your water tank for the whole building. There's 12 families in the building and they fill up a water tank for 12 families to use that one water tank. Right? And sometimes the water runs out. Sometimes the water runs out, and then we got to wait for the water tank to come. That means there's no water. You can't wash dishes. You can't flush the toilet. You can't make wudu. You can't make ghusl, right? Until the water truck comes and fills up the water tank. So what you got to do if you got to make wudu? Huh? Take tayammum? No, go to the masjid and make wudu. Right here. So he said it's recommended to wash the body 3 times. But if one full wash was done, that would be enough. But the recommendation is to do it 3 times. He says next, sunnah tayammum. It's recommended that every time we wash, we start with what side like we do wudu? To start with the right side. The recommendation is to start with the right side. So you go into the room and the brother who's washing the body or the sister's washing the body starts with the left. Right? They start with the left side instead of starting with the right side. Is the ghusl for the deceased correct, meaning valid? Huh? It's valid? It's valid? I'm not saying that it's not too intentionally, because the Prophet ﷺ loved to start with the right side. But realistically, you got to gauge the situation. You walk into a room and a man is washing his mother. You don't know him from a can of paint. You come in as a helper, right? You don't know. It's his first time washing the body. It's his first time washing the body. He's washing his mother, or he's washing his daughter or brother, whoever, somebody close to him. He don't really know what he's doing, like you know what you're doing, because you sat in the Janazah class and you went from A to Z in the Janazah, right? So he starts with the left. What do you do at that point? Let it be. You gotta stand up for the hockey shit. You know, it's Philly. You gotta snap, man.
You gotta think about the harm.
There you go. That's the Muslim. You gotta be thinking, what's the benefit of me saying something right now? Him doing the washing like that, is that gonna invalidate the ghusl? No. So should I say something right now when people emotions is running high, sky high, and things? Is it really a benefit to say something right now at this point? It might not be of no benefit. It might not be a benefit to say something right there. But that's hikmah. You got to put stuff in its proper place. And that's a judgment call. As long as it doesn't invalidate the action that we're doing, you need to look at it and make sure that it's worth saying it at the time. The problem is a lot of people don't know that it's recommended to start with the right. So they think that if you don't start with the right side, that the whole ghusl is messed up. You messed up the whole ghusl. They shot out and I ain't going down there no more. I'm not washing. Now you know what I'm saying? It goes that far because they didn't know that to start with the right is recommended and not obligatory. Tayyib. It's also recommended wa imraru yadihi kulla marra ala batnihi, that every time the person washes the body, it's recommended to do what? Lightly pass over the stomach again. What's the benefit of that, y'all? Again, flushing everything out so that you don't want anything coming out. When? Once we wrap them. That's like traumatic for a person to see. Family members, it's trauma at that point. That's when people like snap at like Janazahs and stuff like that. If they see something, sometimes the body actually does bleed. Right? So maybe possibly a person from the family, they see blood on a white shroud and they snap. Right? So the point is to try to get everything flushed out so that we don't have that issue later on, whether it's at the grave or at the prayer or any time. Tayyib. He says, if after 3 times, after, for example, after washing the body, what's recommended? How many times is it recommended to wash the body? 3 times. Entire wash 3 times. It's obligatory how many times? Once. After 3 times, it's still, the body is not clean. It's still some residue. It could be dry bloods in there's certain places, right? It could be dry blood. You did it 3 times. It says after that, if need be, if the body is not fully clean, then the person, no problem, they go to 4 times. If they need to go to 5, until the body is clean. Until the body is clean. طيب. Everybody clear? Fadl. Yes. If something comes out, Jay, you should do the ghusl again. Right? Now, this is the problem. If something keeps coming out, then they get to a point where they say that you should just dang, that threw me off, Shay. What'd you say?
If something comes out, you have to make the ghusl again. So you get that ghusl
Oh, at that point, it's possible the body keeps having discharge. Then there's a further step that has to be taken, which means that like cotton or something would be placed in that area that's constantly having discharge, and they put something there to stop the discharge. Everybody with me? It's not like, for example, you're not gonna wash the body 10 times and we up to 15 because it keeps having discharge. It's not like that. But if we wash up to 3 and there's still some things on the body that need to be removed, we keep going. Let's wash it again. Are we up to 5? If it's looking like we get ready to finish it, alhamdulillah, we don't have to go up to like 12 and right like that. Remind me at the end now. Remind me about that at the end. Tayyib. Now he moves to the things that are disliked. Things that are disliked when washing the body. What does dislike mean, y'all? That it's not haram, which doesn't mean it's okay to do. If something is disliked, we shouldn't do it. If something is disliked, we shouldn't be doing it. But we have to understand the difference between something being disliked and something being haram. It's important to know the difference. طيب. He says, is dislike number 1, iqtisar ala marra. He said, is dislike to just suffice with washing the body once. What's obligatory? To wash the body 1 time. Should we stop there? We did 1, we good, let's go. No, it's recommended. We should be trying to do things that are recommended. So we should go to 3. If the situation is not enough water, something happened, we can't get to 3 times, and we have to do it once, alhamdulillah, it's enough. But they say to intentionally just wash the body 1 time, they say is what? Dislike. Dislike. Secondly, he says, وَمَاءٌ حَارٌ, to use hot water. To use hot water. What's wrong with using hot water? Huh? It might damage the skin? Allahu A'lam. But, okay. I don't know, but I mean, mumkin. When you say that, I don't mean boiling hot, y'all. Like, you know, we take a shower in hot water. And sometimes it is kind of hot, right? That's what you're talking about? Yeah, possibly. Possibly. What's the problem with hot water? It's a cold body, and what? The body is stiff, and you don't want the body too loose. You don't want the body to become too warm, and the other things on the inside become warm, and that's going to cause flow. You don't want anything coming out that don't necessarily have to come out. They say unless it's a need, right? Unless there's a need, for example, you know how when you're washing something off, and cold water is not going to remove it. So you might have to put some warm water on it to remove it, unless there's a need. Tayyib. It says, well, after that, also dislike khilal. And this is not far-fetched, to floss the teeth. of the deceased. To floss the teeth. What's the problem with flossing the teeth? Same problem we have. What problems you have sometimes when you fall? Huh? Yeah, you might damage his gums and now the gums are bleeding. All of this is to keep the deceased out of respect for the person that's deceased. You don't cause his gum to bleed, damage his gums, or anything that will cause harm to the body. He says also, وَأُشْنَانٌ بِلَا حَاجَةٍ. And this is another tree that is used for washing, that also, as they say, it heats the body, that if it's not necessary, then it shouldn't be used. And these things shouldn't be used unless necessary. Warm, hot water shouldn't be used unless necessary, right? Washing the body just one time and stopping shouldn't be done unless necessary. If it's necessary, alhamdulillah. If not, we should do 3. He says the next thing, also dislike with tasrihu sha'rihi, combing the hair. Combing the hair of the deceased is also disliked. Why? You don't want to start pulling hair out. You want to be combing the hair, and right? All of that is out of respect for the deceased. Tayyib, clear? Tayyib. So let's assume the body's being washed 3 times. He says, وَسُنَّ كَافُورٌ وَسِدْرٌ فِي الْأَخِيرَةِ. It's recommended to use kafur, which is a scent, and sidr in the last washing, so that the body smells good, and also it's used for repellent for bugs. Repellent for bugs. These things are, all of this is out of respect for the deceased. We never treat the body like a person's dead. They don't feel it. Let's just hurry up and knock this out real quick. And if you ever wash your body with people who know what they're doing, they'll tell you the same thing. You got to treat the body gently and respectfully, with some respect. Also recommended khibab sha'rin, to dye the hair of the deceased. To dye the hair of the deceased. What color do we dye hair, y'all? What color don't we dye hair? Huh? We don't dye black. No Beijing, brothers. What is that? I don't know if they're still doing that, but that might be, right? They still doing it? But yeah. It's recommended to dye the hair based on the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about dyeing the hair. Again, y'all, there's a lot of issues in here that this book is not built for those issues, right? And intentionally, I'm not mentioning some things because it's not mentioned. And that's how the book is written, intentionally. That's why it's an introduction to the Janazah. There's not all the masa'il, or not all the issues of the Janazah mentioned here, because if we get into that, we got to get into a lot of other things, but this is not the book for that. So dyeing the hair, just like we leave it there. Dyeing the hair is also recommended. It says also recommended, because recommended, y'all, mean you go in the room, they get ready to wrap the body up, and you see a brother with a hair full of gray hair and a hair full of, and a gray beard. How many say, hey, you ain't dyed the hair? We got to dye the hair. We can't wrap them up, right? At this point, what? Do we have to dye the hair? No, you don't have to. It's better. It's recommended to dye the hair. If a person doesn't dye the hair, then it's nothing to argue about. It's not the time to start arguing and going into, this is going to invalidate, and it's not, the burial's not done right. I'm not washing bodies with y'all no more, and start arguing.
Saved my father, and I know, like, all right, when he was living, my father never wanted to live. So I'm not going to let them die there.
The hair doesn't have to be dyed, aslan. It doesn't have to be dyed. It's recommended to dye. But like you said, say a person in there, they're watching their parent, they're watching somebody close to them, and they know The person didn't like their hair dyed while they were living. You're gonna come in and you're gonna come in. You don't know from a can of paint. You come in to help wash. Oh, we gotta dye it. That's the sunnah. It's not that. It's not an issue that is like that, right? But it has to be done. All of those conversations, even when it's on the spot, had to be done with like gentleness and soft in the discussion. Not that we coming in there telling people what to do. But the Prophet ﷺ said to dye the sheep. The one while you're living. They use the hadith that's used, the recommendation for using henna for dyeing the hair while you're alive. They use the same hadith for while you're dead. Listen, man, it's the same hadith. It's one, right? You treating the deceased. Notice we treating the deceased as if they're living. They've been treated up until now. We're treating the deceased as if they're living. We started the washing. We had to say make the niyyah. The washer had to make the niyyah and say Bismillah, right? And then they made the wudu and they made the ghusl and the rules that connect to the wudu and the ghusl. That it has to be done, obligatory, it has to be done one complete time. Recommended to go up. So the body is being treated as if they were living to some extent. Tayyib. He says also recommended qas al-shadid, to trim the mustache. To trim the mustache, which is also something that we do while we're living, y'all. I'm not trying to be funny, but the Muslim has a certain way that we're supposed to look. As the Prophet ﷺ told us, be different, right? Because something becomes a style, don't mean we got to adapt every style that come out. People made a style, long beard, long mustache, like truck driver mustache, we used to call it. Mustache all the way out here and all this crazy stuff, right? But that's not our way. Our way is what the Prophet ﷺ taught us, to leave the beard and trim the mustache. That's our way, not the opposite, because that becomes the new look. So if you want to look like this, the look for this is to grow the mustache in and wear this type of hat and all this kind. That's not from our way. Our way is what the Prophet ﷺ taught us, to trim the mustache and to leave the beard, So he says here, it's also recommended to trim the mustache. وَتَقْلِيمُ أَظْفَارٍ إِنْ طَالًا. If the fingernails are long, to trim the fingernails. If they're long. Not just to go in there, got to give everybody you go in there a manicure. If the fingernails are long, then we trim them. We're not going in there as has become, not for us, but for non-Muslims. They have things that they do for in their burial procedure. So they might give the body a shape up and they do all of this stuff and they maybe give them a manicure and whatever they do. Because they do it, it doesn't mean that we have to follow suit, right? We have our way and they have their way. Lakum dinukum waliya din. You have your deen and I have my deen, right? I don't think, and Allah knows best, I don't think that they're adapting our ways. I don't think that they're starting to take all of their deceased and washing them and doing everything that we do. So we shouldn't feel no pressure that we have to do the way they do their things. If that's what they want to do, that's on them, right? Tayyib. He says, if the fingernails are long, to trim the fingernails. He says, with tanshif, and to dry the body off. And the benefit of drying the body is that so the wrap is not wet. You want the wrap to be clean as possible. We don't want any stains. We don't want anything on the wire. You know, if it gets wet and it soaks through, then you can see possibly you can see the skin. And if the skin has a scar on it, it becomes a whole issue with the people that are present. Tayyib. He says, وَيُجَنَّبْ مُحْرِمْ مَاتَ وَمَا يُجَنَّبْ فِي حَيَاتِهِ. The muhrim is the person who is making hajj or umrah. Once they change their clothes and they have on the white and they make their niyyah and they're in ihram, as we said, a person is in ihram, right? At that point, they're described as being a muhrim. And once we get in ihram to make hajj or umrah, there's certain things we can't do. Once we get in ihram to make hajj or umrah, There's certain things that we can't do. This is for the muhrim. So the person that dies on Hajj, the person that dies while they're making Umrah, right? He says we treat them in the washing the same way we would treat them as they were living. Meaning, the muhrim, once you're in ihram to make Hajj or Umrah, not when you get on the plane, once you get in ihram, you put the white on, and you make your niyyah, right, from the miqat. Once you do that, you can't cut your fingernails. You can't cut your hair. You can't put on cologne or oils or anything like that, right? Those things are applied also to the person that dies in ihram. So the person that is making Hajj and they die on Hajj while they're making Hajj, when they're buried, they're treated the same way they would be treated while they were living. So in that case, we're not going to cut their fingernails. In that case, we're not going to trim their mustache. Everybody with me? In that case, we're not going to use the kafur or the pleed that goes in the washing, the scent that goes in the water when we're washing the body, right? The sidr. In that case, for the muhrim, that's the kafur. The kafur production. The sidr is the scent that is used for the washing. That we're not going to use those scents for on the muhrim, the one who died either making Hajj or Umrah. They're in ihram while they're in ihram. He says, and this is the end, these last two issues here. He says, وَسَقْطٌ لِأَرْبَعَةِ أَشْهُرٍ كَمَوْلُودٍ حَيٍّ. A woman or the fetus dies that has reached, she's 4 months pregnant, right? And then we call it a miscarriage, right? So if the baby has reached 4 months, if the woman is 4 months pregnant, then the baby is treated like as if it were alive, meaning the rules of the Janazah take place for the baby. Everybody with me? The baby reached, how many months? 4. Meaning if the baby has not reached 4 months, then what? Doesn't reach the rulings for Janazah. That doesn't mean the baby is not prayed over. I mean, that doesn't mean the baby is not buried and, but the Janazah, the rulings that we're going through for Janazah is not for the one who died less than 4 months. Yes. Oh, I thought you.
This is the baby that's inside the womb?
Yes, it's possible that it comes out. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's possible that the baby, a miscarriage, right? So it could come out at 2 months. The baby could come out at 3 months. The baby could come out early and die at 6 months, right? It depends on how many months the baby is. It depends on how many months the baby is going to determine how we're going to treat the actual deceased, the body. Either way, y'all, either way we're going to bury the baby, regardless. But is it that a 2 month that we do everything that we did for? No, it's not the case. طيب. I thought you raised your hand. طيب, we'll stop there, inshallah. The next issue is if we're not able to wash the body, إذا تعذر غسل الميت يمم. If the body is not able to be washed, then what? We make tayammum for the deceased. We make tayammum for the deceased. You know what tayammum is? Right? The dry, washing, the dry ablution. The dry wudu that doesn't have any water. If the body is not able to be washed with water, like sometimes the body is not able to be washed with water because of the type of death. So if that's the case, it doesn't mean they don't get a janazah, but it's a certain way we have to go about it in order to complete it.
A brother in Jersey, I know, he got hit by a train because of law. And they called one of the scholars, and they got some advice how to stroke the body because the body was in something bad. So they said they struggled the bag. Well, they poured water, like as if they was the bag.
Oh, they pour water on the bag?
I mean, that was a position from the evidence. Well, I don't know what the evidence is.
Is that what the scholar said?
That's what the scholar said.
Halas.
Um,
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying fight.
When it comes to the women, the whole body of water, after washing it, how is it done?
Even with the man, the body that's washed with the man, the odor is always covered. Meaning you're gonna have something on your hand, and like was normal is that they open up a trash bag and extend the trash bag over the body. So even if it was a woman, you can open the trash bag, extend. I've never washed a woman. Yeah, just cover the whole body. Right. From the men, usually it's like a half. They use half of the trash bag. Right. Yeah, and even the washer for the man, the washer doesn't like when the person washes the body, he doesn't like go like this and start washing under the thing. You know what I'm saying? He like basically generally he lifts up the bag and he just washes, and usually looking away. You don't want to see nothing that you don't have to see. At no time does a body like just take it off and just. It's always a protection to keep the person's privacy covered. So even if the most that will probably be exposed is to the actual person washing, right? Sometimes we have to pull the body over and the person washing is on the other side washing. So they might see the back of the person, right? But it's at no time that the body is just totally just, right? So even if it was the case, and Allah, I'm gonna wash the sister, that the bag could be just extended. Allah, the odor, the point being the odor can be covered and you can still wash a person. It's not like you have to totally, they have to be like totally uncovered for you to wash them.
So with the gloves on, you still get in the services and all that, you have to do it until they clean properly and big fluid come out as far as the front and the back.
With the gloves on, yeah.
Yes, because you could go ahead and touch base.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You never touch them with skin on skin. Like they say, put a khif on. And that's the issue of that's a lot of the issues are connected to life now, like while you living. Skin on skin. If you touch a woman, right, shake a woman's hand, does that break your wudu? That's an issue. Right? That's not just an issue when you're dead, it's an issue now. While we living, it's an issue. So now, even after death, right? Not just touching the person, but touching their odor. This is a question right there. But touching their odor, right, which is even more private than a general, for example, a general handshake is an issue.
Just rinse it off.
Say it again.
Like don't touch the front or the back, just rinse it. You know, so you can just rinse, so you can just wash.
The washing.
Yeah.
You're washing.
You're washing.
But you're covered. You never washing hand on hand. You're gonna wash and then you're gonna clean. Again, it's always gonna be covered. It's not like it ain't for everybody. The law, so the person washing has a lot of responsibility. It's a lot of responsibility. Do we dye the hair with the women? Some of the men say yes, even if it is a woman, and that's what it says. Even how he translated it here in the English, in that section, in the metin it doesn't say that. In the actual text it doesn't say that, but in the explanation of the book, it says yes, whether man or woman, that the hair is recommended to dye the hair. The mother and the baby dies while child in the stomach, does the baby get removed? If the mother and baby dies while child is in the stomach, does the baby get removed? Wallahu a'lam. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. And that was the point of if the baby is still in the stomach when they die, of raising and not pressing on the stomach. That issue came at the beginning. As far as like medically, if they do something different than that, then that's a whole different story. If they, if the doctor says that whatever the case, that's a different situation. But generally, as they mentioned in here, if the baby is in the stomach and they both die, then of course it's not to be pressed on the stomach, so that, as they say, it doesn't harm the baby, even though the baby is also deceased. Allahu a'lam. Any other questions? We'll stop there till next week. What was that issue now? About the washing the mother? Oh, the issue, yeah. I didn't. Let me see. It's an issue that's not mentioned here in detail, but the issue of men washing women and women washing men. Oh, that we spoke about? Men wash men, women wash women. Sorry. The husband and the wife. That's what we spoke about, right? Men wash. We talking about the husband and the wife? The brother made just to be clear that men wash men, women wash women. But when it comes to the issue that he was talking about, the husband and the wife, it's an issue based on what we spoke about. It's an issue. Can the husband wash the wife? Can the wife wash the husband? That's your issue in itself. That is not mentioned here, and therefore we're not gonna go no further. Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. But men wash men, women wash women, and when it comes further than that, then that needs a little more detail. Say it again.
Yeah, it's something in other text that we can discuss that.
If we finish this successfully, all right, and then we can move to the next book. Because this is how it works, y'all. This is one book. It's no problem. We do the same chapter again from the beginning. That's how it works. We do this book, and there's all the issues not mentioned in this book. It's okay. What happens? We master this chapter from this book, and I'm just giving how it works is realistically, you master the book, and then you go to the next book. But I'm using an example. We master this chapter of Janazah from this book, right? We get this down like this, the way it's explained here. And then what we do, we go to a level 2 book of the same chapter of Janazah, where they're going to mention everything we spoke about and more. Then we master the level 2 chapter. And then we do what? Then we do another book, level 3, the same chapter, Janazah, right? That's how you build your issues up. You can't do everything and make it, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not, the author they wrote books like this intentionally. It's written like this intentionally. Some issues are left out intentionally. What if you don't have the same sex relative to wash the body? It doesn't have to be a relative to wash the body. That's all I understand from the question. The relatives don't have to wash relatives. They can, right? But they don't have to wash relatives. That's all I understand from this question. It says, what if you don't have the same sex relative to wash the body? Then sisters, get some sisters to wash the body. It doesn't necessitate that the body being washed has to be done by a relative. Hope that's clear. Anything else?
I was just thinking about something you said about that. The subject, like different books.
Uh-huh.
And I was listening to something about how there's some of them they have contemporary scholars who they go into some of the books of Imams of the Sunnah from the past, and they may do a whole chart on something that they already explained, but to another
right.
level.
Right. I try to keep it the way the author intended for it to be, because if you do too much, you really take away from the intent of the author. And it's like that honestly, in all sciences, it comes like that. Every science has an introductory level. It's not that they don't have Dalil, but to put it simple, it's like this. The assumption is the reader, you're not ready for that Dalil. You wouldn't like this. You wouldn't understand the Dalil if they gave it to you at that level. You with me? For example, a new Muslim comes in here and they don't have to make. Okay. All right. A new Muslim comes in and they have to, it's time to pray. Like the brothers took Shahada the other day. right? He comes and it's time to pray Isha. So what we gonna do? He has to do what? Make wudu. So when you go take him to make wudu, the new shahada, you gonna explain to him all the hadith and Sahih Bukhari about making wudu, right? What you gonna do? You're gonna turn on when you say Bismillah. All right, take the water like this. You're gonna tell him what to do. Period. And he's gonna do it, and we're gonna come in here and pray, right? That's what this book does. Do this. We're not having a discussion. Just do this. You got that down? All right, we got another book. The next book is going to give you this and a little bit ziyad, a little bit more. It's going to open up some things because there's more knowledge. You master that, okay, the third book is going to do the same. What's in book 3 is going to be book 1 and 2 is inside of book 3 with extra stuff also, with extra information. And that's how it works. So this chapter doesn't have everything, but it's like that intentionally. It's fine. We don't need everything right now, but we do need some basic things to carry us through. Sisters on the road tonight, eh? You working today, Sheikh. Alhamdulillah. Where can we look to get more information on spouse washing deceased spouse? That's a good question, sis. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if it's in English. I don't know if it's translated, but you can probably look in Malakhas al-Fiqhi. No, that's translated. The Islamic jurisprudence, I think. It ain't in there. That's a 2-volume book. Oh,
I can check it. I can post when I get home and post on
if it's in there. All right. The brother's if it's a book called the Islamic Jurisprudence. It's kind of along the lines of this book, but I don't know if it's mentioned in there also. I don't know if it's mentioned in there. It's 2 volumes, the Islamic Jurisprudence by Sheikh Salih Fawzan. Hafidullah. It might be in there, it might not be, but if it's going to be anywhere, it's probably going to be in like books of fiqh, books that have to do with any book that has to do with Janazah. If you want to check, I'm not sure. I can't give you a definite answer though, because I don't know the book that it's in. This is a book. This book is not famous. It's not in here. It's translated, but it's not in the actual text itself. In the more detailed text, the more detailed explanations, it is discussed, but I don't know. I can't give you really somewhere to go find it because I don't know myself in English, honestly. Khalas? That's it? طيب. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. You ready?